Hello, I'm the Jolly Saver, and in this video, I'm going to talk through what an emergency fund is and my top 5 tips for building an emergency fund. So, what is an emergency fund? It's a pot of money that you set aside for unplanned expenses or financial emergencies. You might also know it as a rainy day fund, but the main theme here is that you have a bit of money that you have in the bank that you can use if something unexpected happens. For example, if you were to break down in your car and you need car repairs, then you can use your money in your emergency fund for that. Or it could be something more extreme, like you lose your job and you need a few months of income to plug the gap in income while you look for another job. Building an emergency fund can be a bit daunting, so I've got 5 top tips for building it. So, what are my 5 top tips for building an emergency fund? My first tip is to start small. So, if you've ever read any articles online about emergency funds, they normally recommend a fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. Now, that can seem like a daunting task. So, for me, that's £3,000 to £6,000 I'd have to save in my emergency fund. So what I like to do when I'm starting out with an emergency fund is to just really start small. So if you're starting from a point of having £0 in your emergency fund, then even putting £10 a month away into your fund will it'll start and adding up, and it's a bit of a less daunting task than trying to save hundreds of pounds each month. So the important part is getting started. So and if that is getting started small, then that's a great achievement. My second top tip is to separate it from other savings. One of the traps I've fallen into before in the past is having a pot of money that I've just classified as savings. So I've had that pot of money be for my emergencies as well as holidays and other fun things. The problem with that is that when you come to spend money on a holiday and you take money out of that account, you may eat into the emergency fund without meaning to. So I find it a lot easier to break up my finances and have one pot for my emergency fund and another pot that's separate that is for fun things like holidays or meals out. Tip number 3 is to utilize bank roundup features if your bank offers them. So my bank offers a save the change feature. So it means when I spend money on my current account, it'll round up the amount that I've spent to the nearest pound and it'll save the difference and put it in a separate um, savings account. So, for example, if I was to spend £1.80 on a coffee, my bank would actually charge me £2 and the extra 20p would go into my savings account. And what I like about this is that you don't even have to think about it because naturally spending on your card, your bank is taking that difference and putting it in a savings account. So you seem like you're automatically saving, which is quite nice to do. And you'd be surprised at how quickly those pennies do add up. So after a few weeks, you'll have probably have a few pounds in that savings account. And as you can imagine, as the year progresses, that savings account will just build and build. So I think it's a really useful thing to do if your bank does offer it. And then tip number 4 is just to make it automatic. I think with anything, the emergency fund is all about building good habits month on month. Sometimes it's quite hard to remember to save into the emergency fund because you mightn't get excited by it. It's more exciting to save for a holiday than it is for a rainy day. So what I've done in the past is I've made it automatic by setting up a standing order from my current account to my savings account. So if I wanted to save, I don't know, £10 a month, that £10 would move automatically on the first of the month from my current account to my savings account. And then the final tip is really just to say celebrate your success. So if you're someone who hasn't got anything in your emergency fund right now and you're starting on this journey of having some money in case of a rainy day, then just celebrate every time that you move money across to that account. Now, this doesn't have to be celebrating by purchasing anything. It's more just patting yourself on the back and acknowledging that you're making progress with your financial journey. I think for me personally, if I focus too much on the big number and focus on how far I am away from that number, it can become very disheartening. So instead, I always reflect on how have I progressed from last month. So if I've added an extra £10 in that fund in the previous month, then I class that as success and I say well done to myself. So those are my 5 top tips. Do let me know in the comments down below if you have any other tips that you'd like to share with people for building an emergency fund, and good luck with your journey.